My name is Alara Quinn, and at 31 years old, I run 3 upscale patisseries along the California coast, places people describe as warm, inviting, and full of soul. Funny how easily strangers romanticize success. They see polished counters, golden pastries, soft lighting, but they don't hear the sound that still haunts me. A phone ringing. Over and over. Relentless. That sound doesn't belong to my present. It drags me backward. Straight into a memory I never outgrew. The day it happened again, I was in my flagship kitchen in Santa Monica, carefully glazing a row of citrus tarts. My staff moved around me, ovens humming, timers ticking. Everything felt controlled. Safe. Then my phone lit up. Unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. 5 minutes. 10. 20. My hands kept working, but something inside me had already frozen. Because deep down, I knew who it was. Or at least what it was. The past. And the past doesn't call unless it wants something. I let it ring. Because the last time I waited for someone like that, I was 9 years old, small, quiet, holding a cheap duffel bag on my lap in a place that smelled like disinfectant and loneliness. I remember sitting there, swinging my feet above the floor, listening to adults promise words they never planned to keep. Just for a little while. Everything will be okay. They always say that. That day, my parents didn't abandon all of us. No, that would have been too honest. They divided us. My mother kept my younger sister. My father took my older brother. And me? I was the temporary problem. The one they parked in a children's home, like an extra suitcase they didn't have room for. At first, I believed them. I really did. I thought maybe I'd go back in a week. Maybe 2. I kept my shoes on the first night in bed, just in case they came late and I had to leave quickly. They never came. No calls. No letters. No birthdays. No apologies. Just silence stretching so long it eventually stopped feeling like waiting and started feeling like truth. Years later, I built a life so solid it looked unbreakable. A life people admired. A life they wrote articles about. A life that finally had value. And suddenly, the silence ended. The phone kept ringing. I placed the last tart on the tray and wiped my hand slowly, staring at the screen like it might reach through and grab me. Voicemail. Another call. Another. Then a message came through. 3 words. Ellie, it's me. My chest tightened instantly. Not because I missed the voice, but because I recognized it. My brother. After 22 years of nothing, now there was something. And I didn't feel relief. I felt clarity. Because people don't come back when they love you. They come back when they need you. I turned the phone face down on the counter, forcing myself to breathe evenly as the kitchen buzzed around me like nothing had changed. But everything had. Because somewhere out there, the people who once erased me from their lives had suddenly remembered I existed. And this time, I wasn't the little girl waiting by the door. This time, they were the ones waiting. Before everything broke, we looked like a normal American family. That's the dangerous part about most disasters. You never see them coming when everything still looks intact from the outside. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Phoenix, Arizona. 1-story house. Faded blue shutters. A backyard that tried a little too hard to look alive in desert heat. My mom, Caroline Quinn, worked as a receptionist at a dental office. My dad, Victor Quinn, handled logistics for a mid-sized distribution company. Nothing glamorous. Nothing dramatic. Just ordinary. My brother, Ethan, was 2 years older than me, calm, observant, the kind of kid adults trusted without question. My younger sister, Lila, was all noise and laughter and tangled hair. She followed my mom everywhere like a shadow. And me? I was the middle child, old enough to notice what didn't make sense, young enough to still believe love was supposed to be fair. I remember Saturday mornings the most. Pancakes slightly burned at the edges, syrup dripping off mismatched plates, sunlight cutting across the kitchen table. My dad would hum off-key while flipping pancakes, my mom pretending to be annoyed, but smiling anyway. Back then, nothing felt fragile. It felt permanent. Until it wasn't. It started with my dad losing his job. At first, it was temporary. Then it became complicated. Then it became silence. The house changed before anyone admitted it. Bills started piling up on the counter. Conversations dropped into whispers. Laughter disappeared like it had somewhere better to be. Kids notice everything, even the things adults think they're hiding. My dad stopped shaving regularly. My mom started working late. Ethan stayed locked in his room more often. Lila became clingy, always asking when things would go back to normal. And me? I listened. From the hallway. From behind doors. From the stairs where the wood creaked if you stepped too hard. I learned the truth the way kids like me always do, by piecing together fragments no one wanted to say out loud. The night it all snapped, I remember lying awake, staring at the ceiling, when their voices broke through the walls. "We can't keep doing this," my mom said, her voice sharp but tired. "Then what do you want, Caroline?" my dad shot back. "Because I'm trying here." "No, you're surviving." "That's not the same thing." Silence followed. Not the calm kind. The kind that means something irreversible just entered the room. A week later, they sat us down at the kitchen table like they had rehearsed every word. They said they were separating. They said it gently, like soft voices could make a hard truth smaller. "It's not your fault. We both love you. Families can change and still be families." All the right lines. All the wrong reality. Because after the speech came the part they didn't want us to hear. Logistics. Who would go where? What made the most sense? My mom wanted Lila. She said Lila needed her more. My dad chose Ethan. Said he was easier to handle. They talked about schools. Money. Space. Practical things. Important things. Everything except me. No one said my name. Not once. I sat there, perfectly still, waiting for anyone, to notice I hadn't been placed anywhere in their new version of life. Finally, my mom said it. "What about Alara?" There was a pause. Just long enough to tell me everything I needed to know. My dad exhaled slowly. "I can barely manage as it is." My mom's voice dropped lower. "Same here." Then came the sentence that rewired something inside me forever. "Maybe just for a little while we find somewhere for her to stay." Somewhere. Not someone. Not family. Somewhere. Like I wasn't a child. Like I was a problem that needed storage. I remember gripping the edge of the chair so tightly my fingers hurt, staring at the table because I knew if I looked up, I'd see it on their faces. That quiet agreement. That silent decision. They weren't choosing between us. They had already chosen. And I was the one they could live without. 2 days later, my mom packed my clothes into a bag she didn't even bother organizing. My dad drove. No one cried. No one stopped it. Because they kept calling it temporary. And I kept believing them. Right up until the moment they left me behind. The place they took me to wasn't called an orphanage. They used softer words. Care center. Temporary placement. Support housing. But no matter what you call it, it's still a place for children nobody came back for. The building sat behind a metal fence, paint peeling in places like it had given up trying to look welcoming. Inside, everything smelled like bleach and something older, something tired. A woman at the front desk smiled at me in that careful, practiced way. The kind adults use when they know something is wrong, but don't plan to fix it. My mom crouched in front of me, adjusting my jacket like she needed something to do with her hands. "Just for a little while, Ellie," she said softly. My dad signed papers without looking at me. "Be good," he added. "We'll come back soon." I waited. That was the most important part. I waited for one of them to stop, to laugh nervously, to say this was a mistake, to grab my hand and take me home. But they didn't. They stood up, turned around, and walked out. No hesitation. No second look. No goodbye that meant anything. That was the moment something inside me cracked but didn't break. Not yet. The first night, I slept on a narrow bed with a plastic cover that made noise every time I moved. For girls in the room, no one talked. One cried quietly. Another stared at the ceiling like she'd memorized it. I kept my shoes on, because I still believed they might come back that night. That belief lasted about a week. After that, reality set in. The words changed. Staff stopped saying, "when your family comes back," and started saying, "if there are updates." That one-word difference? It changes everything. I learned fast. Not because I was strong, but because I had to be. Don't cry in front of the older kids. Don't get attached. Don't ask too many questions. Don't expect anything. Hope was dangerous there. Kids who still had it lost it the hardest. One girl told me on my 4th day, "They all say they're coming back." Then she shrugged. None of them do. That sentence stayed with me longer than any goodbye. Time passed strangely after that. Days blurred. Weeks stretched. No calls. No visits. Nothing. Until eventually, even waiting started to feel pointless. That's when something inside me changed for real. I stopped being the girl who expected love and became the girl who learned how to survive without it. I made myself useful. Clean tables. Fold laundry. Help younger kids. Stay quiet. Invisible. Because invisible kids don't get hurt as much. At least, that's what I told myself. But the truth? Being invisible hurts in a different way. It teaches you something dangerous. That your absence doesn't matter. That your presence isn't needed. That life goes on just fine without you. And once a child learns that, they never fully unlearn it. Foster care was supposed to be the next step. A chance at something better. That's what they tell you. But what they don't tell you is how many versions of temporary exist in the world. My first foster home wasn't abusive. That would have been easier to understand. They were just indifferent. 3 boys already lived there. I was the extra. I slept on a couch in a room without a door. My clothes stayed in trash bags for months because no one thought to give me a drawer. When guests came over, I was asked to stay out of the way. I got very good at disappearing. When they decided they were overwhelmed, I was moved again. That phrase stuck with me. Overwhelmed. As if I was too much. As if existing required too many resources. The next house was louder. Too many kids. Too little attention. Food disappeared fast. Privacy didn't exist. School changed again, and with it came the same question from teachers. Where do you live? I never had a clean answer. Because home wasn't a place. It was a temporary arrangement. Then came the worst one. The house that looked perfect from the outside. The foster mother smiled in public, baked for church events, called everyone sweetheart. Behind closed doors? She knew exactly where to aim her words. You should smile more. People like happy girls. Maybe if you were easier to love, someone would have kept you. She never hit me. She didn't need to. Words last longer. By then, I had already learned something dangerous. Once you've been abandoned once, people assume you can handle more damage. They see survival as strength. But survival is not strength. It's adaptation. And sometimes it's silent suffering. The thing that saved me didn't look like a rescue. It started in a kitchen. A volunteer program sent me to help serve meals at a community center. That's where I met Marcus Hale. He wasn't flashy. Just a middle-aged baker with flour on his hands and a calm voice that didn't rush. He showed me simple things. How dough changes when you're patient. How ingredients respond when you treat them right. How consistency creates results. The first time I baked something that turned out perfectly, I just stared at it. Because for the first time in my life, something worked the way it was supposed to. No chaos. No abandonment. No sudden changes. Just effort and outcome. That mattered more than anyone could understand. I kept going back. Learning more. Staying longer. Because in that kitchen, I wasn't the extra kid. I wasn't temporary. I wasn't a burden. I was someone who could create something real. And that feeling? It became addictive. Around the same time, a school counselor noticed something. You don't just like baking, she told me once. You like control. You like building something that doesn't disappear. She was right, because everything else in my life had disappeared. But this stayed. By 16, I knew one thing for certain. Nobody was coming to save me. So I stopped waiting and started building. I aged out of the system at 18 with 1 bag and 0 safety net. No parents. No backup plan. No one waiting for me. Just a thin folder of paperwork and a future that felt dangerously open. I moved to California because distance felt like freedom. Started small. Community college. Morning shifts at a diner. Night cleaning at a bakery. Sleep whenever I could. Repeat. It wasn't glamorous. It was survival with a direction. But something was different now. I wasn't just trying to get through life. I was building something out of it. I started experimenting with recipes. Selling pastries at a weekend market. At first, it was just to cover costs. Then people started coming back. Then bringing others. Then asking where my shop was. I didn't have one. Not yet. But for the first time, not yet didn't feel like never. It felt like progress. That's when I met Maya Brooks. Fast-talking. Sharp-minded. Business-focused. She looked at my prices one day and said, "You're undercharging and overworking. That's not kindness, that's fear." She became my first real friend. Not someone assigned to help me. Someone who chose to stay. Then came Daniel Reyes. Architect. Quiet. Observant. He didn't try to fix me. Didn't rush my story. Just stayed consistent. And consistency? That meant everything to someone like me. Slowly, carefully, I built trust. The business grew. Pop-ups turned into a small shop. The small shop turned into something bigger. Then bigger again. By 30, I had multiple locations. A team. A life. A name people respected. And somewhere along the way, I stopped searching for my family. Stopped wondering. Stopped waiting. Because I had finally understood something important. Closure doesn't always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from moving forward. And then, the interview happened. One honest moment. One truth spoken out loud. And suddenly, they remembered me. Calls. Messages. Voicemails. Voices from a past that had been silent for decades. But this time, I wasn't the child they left behind. I was the woman they needed something from. And that changed everything. They came to see me a week later. All of them. Older. Worn down. Careful in a way they had never been before. And for the first time in my life, they were the ones waiting for me, not the other way around. They apologized. Explained. Justified. Cried. But I didn't interrupt. I let them speak. Because this time, I wasn't the one searching for answers. I already had them. When they finished, I told them the truth. Not with anger. Not with revenge. With clarity. "You didn't lose me," I said. "You left me." Silence filled the room. Because truth doesn't need volume. It just needs accuracy. They asked for help. Support. A second chance. And that's when I made the choice that defined everything. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no out of hatred. I said no, out of self-respect. Because healing doesn't mean reopening doors that once destroyed you. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. And love is proven by who stays, not who returns when it's convenient. Today, I don't tell my story for sympathy. I tell it for clarity. Because somewhere out there, there's someone still waiting by a door that will never open. And if that's you, understand this. You are not the one who is hard to love. You are just surrounded by people who didn't know how to love properly. And one day, you will build a life so strong that the people who walked away will realize they didn't leave something small behind. They left everything.